Hey guys, I want to share with you this little budget flea market Karambit I picked up on vacation that turned out to be actually really good quality. Now, pretty much any reputable knife person is going to stay clear away from anything at a flea market, and that's completely understandable, but occasionally you're going to find just a really nice gem in there, because flea market knives come in all different varieties, from just the really junky $2, Chinese made garbage that is typically made out of like a 420 surgical steel. They're probably not even heat treated, and up to stuff that's a little more usable, and that's what this is. And I like picking up stuff like this because it's when you're like me and you've got survival kits everywhere and just kits everywhere and packs everywhere and things everywhere, it gets expensive to spend a lot of money on good knives for every kit, every car, every pack that you have hidden away somewhere. So sometimes picking up a couple of flea market knives to fill in the gaps can really be helpful. And I happened to come across this, and I was looking for just like a small Karambit just to start playing around with. I've never owned one. I kind of wanted to get into them, and so I was looking for a flea market one just to kind of play around with, see what I liked, what I didn't like before I made a bigger purchase. It's kind of a reasonable thing to do. And first of all, this thing is it's a spring-loaded one, so it's got a kind of a reverse Karambit design where it's got the upswept blade. But what struck me about this is most of the Karambits I've held are very uncomfortable. They don't fit your hand, they're too small, they're not right. This one here actually fits my hand completely and totally perfect and comfortable. Even if I can scrunch it in pretty good here. It's a little tight, but still with that pinky in there, it fits really good and gives me a really good tight grip on this thing. Now, so I picked this thing up and started looking at it, and what caught my attention first of all was, number one, it had a really good lockup. There's just no play. A lot of these flea market knives just wiggle and wobble all over. There's absolutely no play in this. It's a 100% solid lockup. And then two, it's got really kind of thick aluminum scales here. And normally, something like that, yeah, they tend to be bigger because it's cheaper to machine a bigger hunk of aluminum. If something's small and delicate, it costs more. But this one actually is pretty beefy, which is something I don't like. It's a little thick, but it also adds to the grip that you really have a handful when you're gripping it. And it has this little plastic pad here as well, which I'm going to take off and see if the knife is finished underneath it. I'm just going to take it off and leave it off. But I don't have the little Allen head small enough to take this sucker out, so I'm going to have to go hunting around in the garage and see. It's a nice liner lock. The liner lock is actually fairly thick. It locks up perfect every time. It's got the open kind of pillar design to it, so you can wash it out if you get blood or guts in there. It's got kind of a little spider hole thing, but you're not going to use that because you got the flipper. The pocket clip rides very deep, which is good. I like a pocket clip that doesn't show much of the knife. This one here keeps it pretty much, just the tiniest little bit above your pocket. It's got a real good pocket clip. It's got a good spring to it. It's thick. It's exactly what you want in a pocket clip. I wish some of the more expensive manufacturers out there would kind of copy this design, because this is actually perfect for what I need. So, kind of odd, so many good things about it when it's just such a cheapo. Alright, so it says Karambit on it. It's got a black coating. That coating is probably like a baked on powder coat. I'm not an expert. And it says it's 1045 surgical steel hand forged. Now I doubt some Chinese people were sitting there hand forging these little tiny blades all day long. So these are obviously not hand forged. And 1045, I had to do a little research on 1045 because it's not a very common steel. It's actually a, it's in that like borderline where it's almost a stainless steel, but it's really a carbon steel kind of thing. It's not commonly used for knives, to be honest, and that's kind of what intrigued me a little bit about this. And because it is, typically your carbon steel knives in the 10 series are going to be, 1055, 1080, 1090, they're going to be a little bit higher carbon content. So what you have here is you have kind of almost like a hybrid of a carbon steel knife and a stainless steel, which is what people kind of explain the 1045 as. It doesn't have any chromium or anything like that in it that would make it stainless. It's pretty much just carbon and iron. So kind of an oddball composition. And from what I'm reading about it, is that if they're heat treated properly, they actually make a very good steel. And it's not commonly used because the heat treating is tough. Now when you get to these big Chinese companies, of course, they're going to heat treat these things in huge batches. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they load these things into a big gigantic oven, 1,000 at a time, and heat treat them, which is why these things are so inexpensive. A normal place might heat treat in a batch of 5, 10, 20, 50 at a time. These guys might be doing 1,000, and it's not getting any of that individual attention they need. And probably there's also very low quality control as well. But this thing has an edge on it like you wouldn't believe. This thing will take hair off your arms and legs, no problem. It is absolutely lightning sharp, just amazing. I mean, it cuts very well. Okay, so I'm like, big deal. Any cheap steel can be made sharp. You can even take 1020 and make, hell, they make scalpels out of 1020. You can make a soft steel very, very sharp, but it's not going to stay that way for long. So, I took this thing back to the house I was staying at. I use it to kind of do a little bit of whittling. I use it to make some s'more sticks for the kids and do all that kind of normal kind of thing with it you would do just to kind of test out a knife. And the edge stayed really sharp on it still. And in fact, I haven't sharpened this thing back up yet, and it's still cutting paper like the day I got it. So I kind of thought, oh my god, I may have a unicorn here. I may have one of these rare Chinese knives that actually has a really good heat treat to it. And the steel, is a steel that accepts a good heat treatment. So I've taken this thing, I've cut cardboard, and trust me guys, if you want to test out a knife, cut cardboard. Cardboard has clay in it and will dull your knife quicker than anything. Trust me. So I cut up a bunch of cardboard, I cut some paper, I cut different things, cut some twigs, and this thing is still laser sharp. This thing obviously has a good heat treat to it. So what did I do? I literally picked up the unicorn at the flea market. This thing was like, I think $8 or $9. It is very ergonomic. It fits really good in the hand. It has, what seems to be a really impressive steel. It's performing very, very well. Despite doing the normal things that will. Normally, guys, I'm telling you, if you take an edge that will cut paper like that and shave hair, and you cut up a bunch of cardboard with it, by the end of that, you're not going to be able to shave hair anymore because that clay in the cardboard is going to just wear that edge down really, really quick. Which is why you can actually strap a blade with cardboard. Believe it or not, guys, you can actually use corrugated cardboard to strap a knife because it does have that clay and it will abrade the steel. So it's very ergonomic. It fits well in the hand. It was inexpensive. It's got a really good lockup. Everything about it is made very big and strong. It's got big, thick aluminum scales. It's got a big, sturdy blade to it. The lockup is, everything's nice and even on it. Let me close this up and show you. The blade rests in the center of the knife. It doesn't come in at any weird angles or anything. It is, guys. This is like a rare unicorn where I've actually bought something at a flea market that I'm really pleased with. And the more and more I play with the steel, the more and more happy I am with it. So it's, I guess, guys, that you know, you can get a fairly decent knife at a flea market. And you know, it did take a little time. You know, I did see it, and I kind of hummed and hawed, and I'm on my phone, of course, looking up 1045 steel while I'm talking to the guy selling it. You know, but 1045 steel, you know, it was real interesting to read that it can be a really good steel. And hey, maybe I just happened to get one that was the heat treated nicely. Maybe the next one was terrible. You don't know, but you know, like I said, I think I got that unicorn of flea market knives, and just wanted to share it that you can find okay stuff. You can find decent stuff. You can find things that are serviceable at flea markets if you're careful. You take your time, you know, and you look at them, look them over very carefully, and make sure you're not getting something that's cheap. You know, 420 steel that's not heat treated and all that. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed.